Hi, my name is Carine. I teach for YYOGA at home. Congratulations on your pregnancy and welcome to your first trimester class. So we're going to begin by coming into child's pose. Taking your time for preparation for a bigger belly. You can actually widen your knees already and slowly see if you can lean your legs back. If this is uncomfortable, you can take some blankets underneath your ankles or have some blocks, perhaps between your thighs and your buttocks. If it's okay, you can slowly descend down and just take your time. Perhaps stack your hands on top of each other, breathing in through the nose, and exhale completely, allowing yourself to soften. Just taking a moment to feel the back expand as you inhale, and that the pelvis can be heavy as you exhale. And for some of us, maybe having our head below the heart is uncomfortable. You can always prop your head up. So for pregnancy, some of us might have acid reflux. So these are all really great modifications. Let's just take a few more breaths here. Tuning into the fullness of the back breath. And as you exhale, allowing yourself to relax, letting the bones be heavy. And then take your time to walk your hands forward and just slowly walk them over towards the right side, letting your pelvis gravitate towards the floor. You can stay on fingertips and just imagine your hands pressing down and dragging your hands towards you and allowing the shoulder blades to recede back and down. Letting your left armpit roll down towards the floor, sending lots of space in the side of the ribs. As the pregnancy progresses, you'll notice you might feel a little bit of tightness in the upper rib cage. So this is a great preparation for decreased space in the torso due to a growing healthy baby. Slowly walk your hands back to center and then walk your hands over to the opposite side. Perhaps you have your hand underneath your forehead. Just allowing the rib to melt. Every breath you take, you're breathing for 2 or more. Just take your time to enjoy that. And then slowly we'll come back to the center. And your hands still stretch forward. See if you can now round your spine, draw the belly in, and ragdoll yourself forward. So you're in a half plank pose. If this is too much, you can walk your hands closer so that you're more in a tabletop. From here, you walk your feet apart to about hip distance. So half plank if you came up the first time. Drawing the abdominal in and up, pressing your fingerprints into the floor, draw the shoulders back and down. And then exhale, round back into your child's pose. Notice your ankles are not flaring in or out. You're nice and stable. Inhale, ragdoll yourself back forward. Exhale to round back. And one more time here. And back. Once more, for some of us, if this is not comfortable, you can always come forward into tabletop and then leaning back. So less weight bearing for those of us that needs that modifications. Nice, and then from here we'll come on to tabletop. Your hands are pressing down. You're finding that length in your spine. Draw the shoulders back and down. Keep looking down so the back of your neck is wrinkle free. And then see if you can lift your right knee off the floor and maybe the right foot. Really anchoring into those hands. And draw some circles with your right knee. Drawing the abdominal in and up, keeping this tabletop quality so it's neither cat nor cow. Then go the opposite direction. And then take your time to walk your right foot forward. You can use your hand to step it forward. If you're like me, I like a lot of padding into my opposite knee. Then wiggle your left thigh way back and hug your legs towards each other. And for this one, we're going to walk our hands on our thighs and then come up into low lunge. So when you are doing this, you're actually helping yourself as you start to grow the baby to find where is my center of gravity. So hugging the legs towards each other. Inhale. Let's see if we can bring your hands forward and turn your palms forward. Relax the shoulders down. Squeeze your legs towards each other. And inhale, begin to spread your shoulder blades apart. So you're pushing your hands forward. And as you exhale, turn your palms towards each other and pull your shoulder blades back and the shoulders down. Inhale to press forward. Exhale to draw the shoulders back and down. And one more time. So this is great for posture. And if you start to grow, your breasts might begin to get heavier. So just allowing ourselves to wake up those upper back muscles. We'll do that one more time. And release. Then keeping your hands forward, you can take your left hand on your ribs, right hand still forward, shoulders relaxed, and let's see if we can twist towards the left. So it's an open twist. The baby starts to grow, you'll have more space to twist this way. Keep your hips facing forward for this one. So focusing on the upper back and back to center. Inhale to open, legs are strong, back to center. Just one more time, maybe you turn your head as well. And back to center. Option to maybe inhale to open. We'll do 3 more just like this. Exhale. Inhaling and exhaling. Or maybe you'll actually exhale into your twist, just as long as you keep breathing. And from here, slowly take your hands onto your thigh and see if you can step yourself into Warrior One. So essentially what we're doing is practicing getting up and down. See if you can actually walk your feet perhaps about hip distance apart if it's not already there. Hands on your hips. And just bring your heel up and down. Just rocking that weight a little bit forward and back. So checking out, where is my center of gravity? Is it wobbly? That's the point, is that we notice that things are changing and that we can breathe through all those changes. And then from here, a little bend in that front knee. Turn your left toe forward to the left corner of your mat. Your feet are hip distance apart, and maybe begin to bend both knees. Let your weight melt down, and then lengthen and lift your left inner thigh up, and simultaneously maybe bend a little further into your front knee. This is when you get to play with how long you do the stance. In the first trimester, you might be able to go deeper, but then as you grow, you might notice that it's not as deep. That's all good. And from here, let's inhale. Take your hands behind your head. Hug the elbows in, soften the shoulders down. And as you exhale, begin to see if you can draw the belly in and up, and then open your arm and lift your sternum, lift your heart. Perhaps you'll even squeeze your left buttock. If your hands behind your head feels like it's too much, you can take your hands on your hips and come into this extension of the spine instead. What we're creating is actually lots of length in your low back. And slowly bring yourself back to center, neutral spine. Hands on your hips again. Begin to straighten your front leg. If you'd like, hands onto your buttocks, just to give you a little bit of awareness into what's happening in your low back. Elbows back, a little lift of the heart, and then slowly, this is a tricky one, so take your time to notice if you can come forward. Parsvottanasana, take your time. Toes are spread, finding length into the back of the legs, and strength as you hug your feet down and towards each other. Just take one more breath here. And as you exhale, bend into that front knee, coming all the way up. And slowly see if you can now stand and have your toe behind you. Just notice that. If this is really uncomfortable, maybe you're not going to point your toe, so your knees are not beside each other. Maybe a little bend in that standing leg, and just practice lifting that leg. If this is tricky, no problem, just stay here. It's always awkward when the legs are apart, but this is toning all that core and finding how you can relate to gravity in this point. From here, let's see if we can kick your heel towards your bum, and then point the toe and let it come back behind you. The abdominal jaw's in, your rib cage is not flaring out. You're nice and centered. And then with the last one, let's point. And then see if you can draw your knee back and come back to center. Drawing your knee back. And you might fall, and that's okay, right? So that's why we're playing with these postures. Knee back, back to center. And let's see if you can keep everything in, knee back. You can stay here, or you can take your hands on your buttocks and hug those elbows in and reach your heart forward. Or maybe you'll come and dance in Natarajasana, just finding a nice, gentle space, widening in the chest. Focus on one point. Take one more breath. Remember, that binding is optional. You can always be here with your toe on the floor. And then we'll release that. And then just shake it off. That's quite a lot of work on one leg. Just feeling that you can release. Shaking is great to hydrate the joints, the fascia of the body. Then walk your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Turn your toes out. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, coming down towards Malasana. Now, if this transition bothers you in any way, just make your way down on the floor. And some of us, you might sit on the bum and take your feet even wider. Make sure your knees not rolling in and come into the seated version. If this one is okay, you're welcome to come and squat in this version. If your heels are lifted, you can always add blocks underneath the heels. The key is to allow your knee to track over the second and third toe tendon. Let's breathe in. Exhale completely. As you inhale, take this opportunity now to notice what's happening to the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, imagine the tailbone, the sit bones, and the pubic bone coming in towards the center. And as you inhale, maybe imagine them coming apart. And exhale, drawing them in towards the center and even lifting it up like an elevator, lifting up towards the sternum to the heart chakra. And inhaling, allowing it to soften. Exhaling in and up. And then slowly, let's come back onto all four. Widen your knees and take a child's pose. Resting is key in these prenatal practices because the body is already doing a lot of work growing a baby and a placenta. Just take this time to slow down. Then with your next breath, walk your hands forward once more. Round forward, draw your toes and knees to hip distance, coming forward either into this low plank and child's pose version or tabletop and child's pose undulation. So do what feels right for you. And then we'll come back in tabletop. Inhale, root down into your right knee this time. So supporting my knee, lifting your left knee off the floor and drawing those circles. So here you are definitely using those stabilizing muscles. So drawing the belly in, spread your shoulder blades wide, draw circles the opposite way, index and pinky mounts rooted. And slowly begin to step that left foot forward and wiggle your right knee this time way back. Taking your time, hands onto your thighs, and then coming up. Tucking your back heel over your toes. Inhale, your hands come up. Palms facing forward, so stretching into those forearms. And then spread your shoulder blades apart. Then turn your palms towards each other and pull those shoulder blades back and down. So pushing forward, not locking the joints, keep a little bend. And then pulling back and down. And once more. Pull them back and down. Nice. And from here, we're going to take our right hand on our ribs, keeping your hips facing forward. Inhale, opening. Exhale, closing. So it's a very small movement. You actually really have to have that inner corset hugging in. And if you'd like, you might take your hand to face each other and then begin to open. So hands are still in line with the chest. You don't need to bring your hand way past. And close. And inhaling to open. Your legs are strong. One more time. Back to center. Slowly take your hands onto your thigh and just preparing to get up. So this will be useful for some of us when we get a little bit bigger. So your feet are nice and stable. Take your time to transition. Bending both knees and then begin to reach that right inner thigh up. Maybe bend a little further into the front thigh, noticing the opening into the front of the pelvis and the strength as you engage perhaps your glutes a little bit more. Breathing in, reaching your arms now either on your low back and squeeze your elbows towards each other, drawing the rib cage in. Imagine closing here in order to lift the heart so the low back feels spacious, or hands comes behind your head and cradle and rest your head into the hammock of your hands. Maybe opening up the elbows as you soften the shoulders. And slowly come back to center, hands on your hips. Begin to see if you can rock a little forward and back. So this is also great for fluid retention, right? Moving that blood, that energy, and eventually just coming back. Straighten your front leg. Hands on your hips, hug the elbows in. Lengthen and inhale, keep a little back bend. Hugging ribs, bend belly in. Slowly begin to hinge at the hips. Staying here. Keep the breath long. Keep your tailbone moving away from the crown of the head. Of course, you can do any variations with your hands, but because every day does change really dramatically during a pregnancy, I always like to just have my students' hands closer to whatever they can grab. And slowly coming back. Bend into the front knee. Now we're going to practice again. A little rocking and eventually finding your balance. Leg behind you. Make sure you're not dumping or tilting your pelvis. You're in neutral pelvis. Belly wraps in. Toe can point out. Or maybe you have your toes on the floor. From here, let's see if we can balance and lift that leg off the floor. Maybe your hamstring feels like it needs more support, then you'll just keep your knee bent and just try to lift it up. So we're working on hugging into the center line in order to find your balance. Okay. Falling is learning. I know you've heard that before. And then just give yourself a little kick. Don't take it too seriously. Kick, kick. Can you feel those hemis? Those hamstring waking up? And then draw the knee back. So the knees not past the front. Take it your time. Knees right beside each other and then back. Belly in, ribs in, and back. Stay here. Breathing into the strong outer left hip. Give you a front version here. So make sure you're not hugging out, hugging in, and kicking back as you grow tall. And whatever you want to do with your hands is up to you. For this one, I'll keep my hands on my sacrum as I kick back. Breathe in and out. Keep breathing to nourish the baby or babies. And release. Okay, so you'll notice it's not a huge back bend, but it's a lot of support. In fact, we are growing more flexible with all the relaxant in the body in pregnancy. Breathe in, reach up. Exhale, coming back into your yogic squat. So because of that extra flexibility, it's actually good to back out of going to our fullest depth and just work on more strengthening. Okay, here we're going to do a twist. If you're in this seated posture, you can continue to do the twist. You might take your right hand down and reach the left arm up. Your hand might be behind your head. The squatting version. And also, perhaps you'll want to sit on blocks, especially if you feel that the pelvis gets heavier. It's good to sit on something, especially when we start to work on some pelvic floor breathing. Let's come back to center and then inhale to the other side. So you'll notice I have 2 blocks. You can use 1 or 2. You can even do this sitting on a chair. Any time to practice and move and connect. And back to center. And from here, do come off of your blocks, your props. Take your legs in front. Walk your hands out to the side. You can turn your fingertips out, or if it's available, maybe even back, and squeeze your shoulder blades on your back. Lift your sternum and begin to windshield wipe your legs to the left and to the right. And then from here, coming back to sit up. It's nice to sit on some things to maintain this neutral pelvis, meaning you sit on a block, bring your weight to the front of your sit bone so that your lumbar spinal curve is still there. Notice though, in pregnancy, some of us have a bigger lordosis because of the weight of the baby. So then more important to even draw more abdominal hugging in to keep that support. And then you can add some props underneath the thighs. We're not trying to get more flexible. Inhale, reach the arms up. Shrug the shoulders up. Exhale, soften the shoulders. Reach your hands forward. Keep that length and just walk your hands forward so you begin to hinge at the hips. Let's keep our knees pointing up at the ceiling. Engaging the quads, the front of the thighs, and maybe slowly climb yourself forward. Preparing to slow down, taking your time. Take as long as you'd like, perhaps using some props, or you can stack fists on top of each other. And with time, if it feels like it's too much, you can also use a chair, place it underneath you, and resting. So stay here for as long as you'd like, and then end in a final relaxation on your left side if you'd like. Namaste.